dropping frames as soon as I hit go. What was that?
I don't know.
Okay, hi everybody, we're back. I don't know if this is gonna work. We're gonna try. We got one more story. We decided to finish.
Everyone do the internet dance. Everybody do the dance for the internet.
Dude, what the hell is all I can say?
I don't know, man.
Like, this is just well, Cable said that they fixed it and they lied. You lie, Cable. All right, well, I did not bring out.
Sorry.
We're sorry. We're so sorry.
We are deeply sorry.
That's what Cable's going to be saying to me in about 15 minutes, probably, or whenever we decide to.
We're sorry.
We're so sorry.
We're sorry.
We're so sorry. Well, we crashed already, so that's nice fun. That's good. All right. Well, this is once again the continuation of How Did We Miss That? And I changed the stream title so that people know that it's actually something different this time. And again, going to give everyone a chance to get back in here. We crashed and finished out the story because I was like 80% of the way through the article. So I figured we might as well just finish, record it. I'll cut that part out when we actually crashed, and we'll put that out as a clip. But hopefully we're going to stop dropping frames. Damn you, Cable, now. And we can do our final story about the censorship industrial complex, get to our quick hits, and get the hell out of here so that we can do some boats. And hopefully boats holds. That's the plan.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are making it back here, so I'm going to just kind of chill out.
They'd already be in boats.
What?
They were smart.
What? Why? Why would they be there? Anyway,
you have a link at the end of your YouTube things now that says go to boats.
Okay.
You know.
Well,
whatever.
So we watched that wonderful woman talk about what was going on in Palestine, and as a Jewish woman, what her experience is. Hopefully the people you guys, I don't know who Overrated Yacht is, but I'm guessing I have an idea. Disco music was Russian. Okay, if you say so.
A lot of it was.
Bad Cookies this year.
There's so much Russian art that we just don't see here. Tons of great animation and music, and but whatever. Like, wasn't all just bleak brutalist nonsense.
So hey, I got a question. Anything happened this weekend?
Okay. Nah, not anything important. So
cool.
Yeah, those bad things are happening.
Nah, nothing happened. So I wanted to get to two different articles that came out of the Taibbi Twitter files, FOIA files, censorship industrial complex stuff that he's been all over for the better part of 18 months. So the first one actually happened about a month ago, and I didn't really hear anybody talk about it, but it was really important because if you remember the 2020 election, and I think some of us do, one of the organizations that was highly influential was that no, Anna, we're not doing any Rockfin on the redo because we just crashed, and I'm just not setting one up. A pain in the butt. Sorry. Tell Rockfin it's a pain in the ass. Stanford Internet Observatory, again, has been very highly influential when it came to the election, to censoring Twitter, they hired this woman named Renee DiResta. They had this guy recently who just resigned from the Stanford Internet Observatory, but then we find out that not just he lost his job, but everybody lost their job. So everybody lost their job because the
You
center
lose your job.
was the
And
leading.
you lose your job.
Yeah. So the Stanford Internet Observatory is brought to heel. Now, Andrew Lowenthal had actually written one of the Twitter Files articles way back like a year ago. He's from Australia. He says karma has just caught up with the Stanford Internet Observatory, which will be scaled back to just 3 staff, according to the Washington Post. The contracts of its leading protagonists or propagandists, Alex Stamos and Reade DiResta, have not been renewed. Yay!
Yay.
You know, we hate people losing their jobs, but propagandists losing their jobs. Yeah, exactly. All right. It was former CIA fellow DiResta that led the Stanford Internet Observatory's signature initiatives, the Election Integrity Project, the EIP, and the Virality Project, VP. Of course, the Virality Project was around censoring COVID stuff. Election Integrity Partnership ended up running the tabletop exercise that pre-gamed all of the Hunter Biden laptop censorship for the social media companies.
That was just Russian propaganda.
Russian
God.
scum.
You and your damn emails.
SIO's demise is a result of a string of efforts, including those of Racket, Public, the Missouri v. Biden plaintiffs, the New Civil Liberties Alliance, the Disinformation Chronicle, the Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government, and many more. Network Effects also contributed original research. Founded with a $5 million donation from Craig Newmark. We know who he is, especially, Craigslist, Craig Newmark. SIO took countering misinformation to new heights. The Virality Project advised its big tech partners to consider true stories to be misinformation. Of course they did. Right? Standard vaccine misinformation on your platform. Yeah, Of course, booby. They accuse false or misleading posts from the accounts of well-known repeat offenders. So what do they want? They want booby censored. That's RFK Jr., not actual like boobies, but yep. We're back at another stream on YouTube, guys. That has this title of Censorship Industrial Complex. And thank you for jumping over to Rumble, everybody who has. And Rumble's kick-ass because as we continue our stream, they don't actually drop our stream. But we actually have a new stream over on the INN channel as well as my own, I believe. I hope so. It's supposed to be running live. If not, then we're just over on Rumble. But
it's up on YouTube.
I think so too. What he says is that he unearthed that document while assisting Matt Taibbi with the Twitter Files research just in time for his and Schellenberger's testimony before the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. That was last March. It's perhaps the most egregious example of the Internet Research and Digital Rights Field's 180, an inorganic flip that undermined a decades-long commitment to free expression. An infiltration by the intel community, you mean, into the academic community, which there always really has been. But somebody convinced the people at the social media companies that these academics that were also CIA agents were leading experts when it came to misinformation and censorship. Yeah, that really happened. Inorganic because the EIP and VP, the Election Integrity Partnership and Virality Partnership, were not research initiatives, as is often claimed. They were seeded by the security state, namely the Department of Homeland Security and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is CISA, as demonstrated by emails released by the House Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Below the Atlantic Council's Graham Brookie, an EIP VP project partner, explains that we just set up an election integrity partnership at the request of DHS CISA. So Reade DiResta, who was lying through her fucking teeth, claiming that this was completely independent of any intel agency or anything having to do with the federal government, Absolute fucking lie. And you could see that this was disseminated throughout the Atlantic Council from Graham Brookie. All right. The Atlantic Council is essentially NATO's think tank, and its board includes Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, the former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former Secretary General of NATO the Honorable Lord Robinson, former U.S. Secretary of Defense and CIA Director Leon Panetta, Tara Reade's former boss, Goldman Sachs Secretary of the Board John F.W. Rogers, and many, many, many more. As Taibbi further demonstrated, Twitter was aware of the Election Integrity Partnership's links to the intel community, which, again, he discovered throughout his Twitter files and now also through the FOIA files, where they're now reverse engineering the Twitter files through FOIA requests and finding out through public documentation of people's emails exactly what was discussed between public officials and both these university officials and the social media companies and the intel agencies that's not classified. Right? So when content takedown recommendations came into Twitter, they knew they were more than just serving suggestions. The content of those requests was made clear after the Stanford Internet Observatory was forced to release details of their internal flagging system. This again via Taibbi's reporting. And they had all of these different labels. This is being shared to Facebook. And while it's been labeled, shared in a group, official page shares didn't receive such a label. We recommend labeling all instances of the article being shared on Facebook. I mean, this is literally just nanny state internet police self-appointed by the U.S. government. Right? We found this out a month ago, that they disbanded this organization. Furthermore, that Virality Project, just to remind you why they're disbanding it, because it was a narrative changing and narrative shaping intel state operation that got exposed, partly by the Twitter files. Right? Virality Project was in close contact with the White House and hosted Surgeon General Vivek Murthy for a discussion on health misinformation. Oh, God. They also had a pipe. Vivek. No, not that Vivek. Not Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
They also had pipeline level access to more than 50 million COVID-related tweets per day. Oh, that seems like it would be a good idea, to put the COVIDians in charge of 50 million tweets a day and which ones should be censored.
That's fine.
This was in no way an insignificant research project, right? They said they were releasing a new free endpoint in Twitter Developer Labs that delivers the full fidelity, real-time public tweets about COVID-19. We know that our standard API has limitations to make it difficult. Now, I'm reading from the email up here. Difficult to adequately study this topic due to its volume. This new stream will include all tweets related to COVID as classified by our tweet annotations, because they're the experts, of course. Just ask them. We intend to publish the keywords and hashtags of the tweet annotation powering the COVID-19 topic, so you have transparency into the contents of the stream and can supplement as needed. Which, of course, they don't. They never did that. Oh, right. The Virality Project pushed to censor other academics such as Martin Kulldorff, a former Harvard professor of epidemiology and a former member of the CDC's vaccine safety subgroup. So as Alex Guttentag and Andrew had reported, the Virality Project had played a major role in censoring Kulldorff. On March 15th, 2021, that's a year after the lockdown started, Kulldorff had tweeted, quote, "Thinking that everyone must be vaccinated is as scientifically flawed as thinking that nobody should. COVID vaccines are important for older high-risk people and their caretakers. Those with prior natural infection do not need it, nor children." Safe and effective, safe and effective. That's Martin Kulldorff saying that, not in the YouTube. Now, Rumble, Rockfin, and everybody else, that's a whole different story. But as far as YouTube is concerned, they're safe and effective.
I love how you coughed and died right after you said that. That's definitely
right.
Definitely doesn't say anything, does it? Safe and effective.
However, many outlets describe the Stanford Internet Observatory's demise as the result of sustained right-wing campaign by conservative outlets and ignore the corruption at the heart of the project. Predictably, Stanford, DiResta, Stamos, and their supporters shout, "Everything is right-wing," as they scramble to come up with a narrative.
Stamos?
Well, maybe. No, it's Alex Stamos. It might be John's brother or cousin. But they shout everything's right-wing.
Jesse for a second.
No, Uncle Jesse. Uncle Jesse, that's what my kids call Jesse now. But as they scramble to come up with a narrative that deflects accountability for their actions, they're screaming everything is right-wing. Because everything that I disagree with is right-wing. All right? So...
Dude, those pants do make you look right-wing.
Well,
so.
Pants check, I am wearing shorts. The truth is that the Stanford is just that SIO was doing something egregiously wrong and was targeting people regardless of ideology. Those reporters could easily find out that out. The lead tweet of Taibbi's House testimony has been viewed more than 40 million times. Right? So Stamos and DiResta will, of course, find other work. I think that DiResta has already found another job. Stamos already has, starting a company with former CISA head Chris Krebs, and I think we even covered that. Meanwhile, DiResta has a new book out, endorsed surprisingly by Jonathan Haidt, who was among the top signatories of the Westminster Declaration. That's kind of weird, hypocritical.
Yep.
Maybe that's why guys like C.J. Hopkins didn't want to sign it. Or maybe he did want to sign it, but then they kicked him off because he called it a sham. Oh, right. That's what happened. That's right, Michael Schellenberger. We saw that. Despite SIO crumbling accountability, still appears to be sorely lacking. Despite SIO crumbling, accountability still appears to be sorely lacking. DiResta appeared top of the bill at a recent Yale conference on propaganda. Yes, because Yale is deep in disseminating propaganda, skull and bones.
Yeah, they've never had a club that involved, bits and pieces of people and whatnot. It's never happened. Never
Bad
had
Cookies.
Bush in that club.
Bad Cookies asking the question, isn't that a conflict of interest? Yeah, I think it quite might be if you're
that might possibly
if you're
that,
advocating
maybe.
and endorsing Renee DiResta while also signing the Westminster Declaration, you might be an op. What's up with that? What's up with that? Dude, that's becoming my favorite sound bit very quickly. It should never have gone this far. A properly self-regulating anti-disinformation field would have sniffed out bad actors early, but the conversation and the ecosystem is broken. SIO shouldn't be the last center to be shut down or see leadership changes. Yeah, we're going to show you the next one right now. Breaking basic research ethics, hiding your relationship with government and intelligence agencies, protecting corporate products from proper scrutiny, and pushing for the censorship of other academics is not free academic inquiry or free speech. It's corruption and it's censorship, which he didn't say there. Andrew's nonprofit LiberNet will be strengthening their efforts over the coming months to bring accountability to other leading civil society censorship initiatives. Meanwhile, the Stanford Internet Observatory leaves a malign legacy, having damaged the reputation of the anti-disinformation field and academia more broadly. The question is, will the anti-disinformation field clean house, which we know they won't, or continue to ignore the corruption within its ranks, which we know it likely will because Clint Watts is still employed? Links to Andrew's past Stanford Internet Observatory and Virality Project related content can be found below. Andrew does great work. I actually was trying to get him on the show and try to work out a time to interview him and talk to him about this whole thing, but we just weren't able to do that. And I kind of needed to pull a story in tonight. I'm like, you know what? Nobody's talked about the fact that this thing shut down. It was a major factor in impacting the tabletop exercise and impacting the 2020 election. And now they don't exist. And they're going to resurface somewhere else, and they'll pop up elsewhere and try to infect their narrative into the 2024 election cycle. I don't have any doubt or misgivings about that. What do you think about the Stanford Internet Observatory?
I mean, sounds like another industrial complex of mis, and disinformation. You know, well, pretty much whatever goes against the powerful, they have to go get. You know.
Well, and I think that
stamp out any discontent.
And marking, look, we just like with independent platforms, it's platform whack-a-mole. We have to keep moving around and stay nimble and one step ahead. And these guys the censors are trying to do the same thing with us. They're trying to stay one step ahead with their agencies, and we've got to watch them like a hawk and be ever mindful of what they're up to. And don't take your eye off what Reade is up to, because you can guarantee she's not going anywhere. These people don't disappear. Yeah. They're like parasites. They just rebrand. So the other article that came out of Racket News / the FOIA files this week was out of Clemson University. And actually it was out of Racket News. James Rushmore, who I'd never heard of. But this was actually a really interesting article that I read earlier today. This is a paid article, so you need to be a paid subscriber to Racket News in order to be able to read this, but I'm going to share this and I'm going to read through this with everyone and let you see what's been going on with Clemson University. So what happened here was that they have been working, Racket News has been working alongside Undead FOIA to work on a project, and we covered this a few weeks ago, to work on a project to submit a mass amount of FOIA requests about the censorship industrial complex, about the communication between universities and public officials and private companies, and anything that they can get their hands on publicly. So James publishes this the other day. The FOIA request that we sent to Clemson University reveals a tight-knit relationship between university professors, federal law enforcement, and the news media. Go figure.
Yeah.
So, like we said, Stanford wasn't the only university that's participating in this. You've got societies, and you've got projects, and you've got groups all around the country at different universities that are monitoring on behalf of the federal government, on behalf of the intelligence community, and they've got spies everywhere. So James writes, if you've read the Twitter files, you are likely already aware of the social media platform's interactions with Clemson University's Media Forensics Hub. The relationship between the two parties was tense. Internal communications confirmed Twitter's annoyance with Clemson's practice of running to the press with claims that Russian trolls were running rampant on their site. In May 2020, Yoel Roth, we know him very famously from the Twitter files, then the head of site integrity at Twitter. He would later become their, I believe, lead general counsel or the head of security, information security. But then he was head of site integrity. He voiced some of those concerns to Nick Pickles, which I love saying that name, Nick Pickles, the company's senior global strategist.
Rugrats character?
Maybe. The senior global strategist for public policy. So back in May of 2020, Nick Pickles wrote that given that they have a U.S. government relationship, all right, happy for the DC team to pick up the relationship, but I've spoken to them in the past and similarly share Yoel's frustration that they don't take any sort of guidance on what they found. Of course not.
Yeah.
Right? So here, what's happening, Yoel Roth was saying that we've said a bunch of times, we're still happy to work directly with you on this instead of via NBC. Right? So you can see right there that they're using a cutout of NBC to funnel this stuff directly into Twitter so that they can have this disconnect and plausible deniability and say, well, we're not feeding it to Twitter. NBC is. Yeah, but you're giving it to NBC. What do you think's happening? And you're telling them to give it to them.
What was
Vijaya.
what was Vijaya up to?
Lead general count. That was lead general counsel for Twitter at the time.
Hmm.
So I don't know if Vijaya even knew about this, but
Shut your mouth.
well, Vijaya does like to stay closed. Roth also took
You got
issue.
Nick Pickles and Vijaya, dude. Don't even act like that's normal. Someone
Roth.
set that up, dude.
Yoel Roth also took issue with the hub's persistent attribution of certain accounts to Russian trolls. Later that same month, he questioned the hub's Russia-heavy focus because they were designed and put there to be able to stoke fear about Russia and to plant stories about Russia. Right? So he says there, the you haven't attributed to Russia in a while comment is particularly revelatory of their motivations, IMO. Yeah, because they're accusing Twitter of helping Russia, which is amazing. What is the Media Forensics Hub? Well, let's go back. Described as an interdisciplinary team of researchers working to study and combat online deception. Yeah. The censors of the censors, who's monitoring the monitors, right? The project kicked off in 2017. That was the year communications professor Darren Linville and economics professor Patrick Warren joined forces to uncover and expose millions of tweets they attributed to Russian trolls. Sponsored by the taxpayer-funded South Carolina Research Authority, the hub was officially launched in May of 2020. 2 years later, along with the University at Buffalo and several other institutions, it received a $5 million grant from the National Science Foundation. All for a bunch of bullshit to make up stuff about Russian trolls on Twitter. Man.
Probably dude, someone had to code Hamilton 69.
What the hell are we doing? We should be petitioning and getting some of this money. At least we're doing legitimate work to expose shit. Last May, Racket filed a FOIA request with Clemson. Our search produced a series of emails that make explicit reference to the university's dealings with federal law enforcement agencies, providing Clemson help with resources, among other things. Right? So, social media companies and the news media. Okay, so again, Clemson is making deals with law enforcement, social media companies, and the media. The Clemson files are difficult to summarize, but offer probably the most comprehensive portrait we've gotten yet of the role of that such ostensibly non-governmental anti-disinformation, quote-unquote, research institutions can play as middleman organizations. These emails also document the high degree of influence the school had with federal agencies and the media, even if Twitter was not always as cooperative. So they had ways. They had their ways. This is really scary shit. So again, you've got a combination. This is like literally the way they describe fascism, right? You've got corporations, government.
Well, it's how Mussolini described fascism, but yes.
Corporations, government, academia, all, and then non-governmental organizations, NGOs that are funded by the government, or at least in part. Like, how is this? This is bad. A summary of key communications is listed below, while 3 new batches of documents have been uploaded to the Racket FOIA library, where, as always, they are not paywalled. So everybody can go and read this stuff. On March 7th, 2020, and that is about a week before they started locking people in their houses in the United States, Linville messaged Yoel Roth to discuss his team's work monitoring alleged Russian activity on the platform. This was also 3 days, by the way, after Super Tuesday, or 4 days. Roth, as it should be noted, was recently affiliated with both the Atlantic Council's Task Force for a Trustworthy Future Web and the Aspen Institute's Commission on Information Disorder. Recently.
Russian scum!
So they take care of their own. Yoel had to go and hide in the bathroom for about a year, afraid that somebody was going to come after him for all the stuff that he did and all the people that he censored. Nobody did. And then the censorship industrial complex came and gave him a job at the Aspen Institute and at the Atlantic Council, the kings of censorship both. Aspen Institute famously...
Twitter doesn't have a problem with this. They fixed it. Elon fixed a free speech. Free speech now.
Right.
The WEF lady came in and fixed it. It's fine.
Yes, you could tell by everybody's massive reach that doesn't pay.
The most reach, very reach, much wow.
Right.
You know?
Linville told Roth that he had hoped to have the accounts in question suspended before Super Tuesday 4 days earlier, before making reference to CNN chief international correspondent Clarissa Ward. More on her below. Linville then hinted at the level of coordination between his team, CNN, and federal law enforcement agencies. Quote, "I'm not sure what CNN or the feds have shared with you, but it's likely our list has been updated since you got information from either party." Yeah, that's not cool. They're all working in cahoots together. Darren Linville, Kevin Kane, Patrick Warren, but also now directly sending the email to Yoel Roth. So we see that. I saw you were working from home. How did you see that? Maybe he tweeted that he was. Maybe he saw on Slack that he put through their secret Slack communications, or on WhatsApp. That was the name of the damn app I couldn't think of earlier. That the Amazonians could be using potentially. But WhatsApp chats.
Or maybe
DMs?
Maybe.
She even got me on camera.
It wasn't me. They were FaceTiming, Teams. I don't know what they used there.
Probably. Skype.
It's worth emphasizing that the Media Forensics Hub was still in development at this point. It wouldn't even officially launch for another 2 months in May. So all of this communication is going on behind the scenes as they're creating this censorship bureau. It's so freaking insidious, all of this. In a follow-up email, Linville made note of Twitter's decision to suspend some of the accounts, namely those that CNN had given Twitter. And how was CNN given the list to give to Twitter? It was funneled directly from these clowns. The significance of this correspondence cannot be understated. For
Dear
one,
Mr. Pickles, we are sending you this information. We hope it reaches you well.
For one, it reveals that CNN was in the habit of contacting Twitter with the names of accounts it attributed to Russian trolls.
Yeah.
Why is CNN reaching out to Twitter with that shit? Number one. Number two, at the same time...
they've been listening to Hamilton 69, bro. They thought they knew.
No, this is March of 2020. There is no Hamilton 69 yet.
Still 68, I guess.
No, not even. At the same time, it also underscores Twitter's hesitancy to accept many of the Clemson professor's claims. The platform was much more inclined to take action in response to CNN's claims of account inauthenticity. So what would happen? Emails from the hub, by contrast, were less likely to spur a response on Twitter's end. So I think the hub ended up figuring that out and started funneling their requests directly through the media. And all of a sudden, you see a lot fewer hub requests and a lot more media requests. When reached for comment, Linville wrote, this email was in reference to a Russian-supported troll farm operating under the guise of an NGO in Ghana and Nigeria and working to influence conversations here in the States. Sure, buddy. After
Russian scum!
Yeah, he's got about as much credibility as Keith Olbermann. After identifying the coordinated activity on social media, we partnered with CNN on reporting the story. They did a fantastic job. Clarissa Ward and her team traveled to Ghana, uncovered the campaign, and interviewed one of the individuals in charge. CIA, what? No, they would never do anything like that.
It's like a Bond movie. What are you talking about?
Right, where they literally have like the cardboard office set up in Ghana for her to walk into with the CIA agent acting like he's the freaking
Hughes there in a pith helmet. Like, excuse me, Mr. Bond.
Wow.
You know? Ugh.
In a subsequent email, Roth noted his eagerness to help Linville, but he also expressed some reservations about Linville's conclusions. Quote, I'd note that activity similar to what the network was engaged in may not actually be connected to the same actors. Yeah, meaning, and there's not a lot out there that's similar, that's decided not Russian. The same attribution challenges we've discussed in the past. Apparently he's been calling that bullshit for a while. Linville encouraged Roth to trust his team's judgment. Trust me, bro. Before making a comment about how various federal agencies, social media analytics from Graphica, remember Ben Nimmo, who used to work in the Obama administration, is now running Graphica.
Finding Nemo?
Maybe. And CNN have all been looped in on the alleged Russian accounts. Again, they're all in one big circle jerk about Russian nonsense that doesn't actually exist in order to whip the public into a frenzy.
That sounds very similar to another phrase, you know.
Well,
but
take for it what you will.
What do I know? One big club.
Yep, and you ain't in it. Linville declined to name which specific agencies his team contacted. Quote, when we identify malign foreign influence with possible national security influence, as was clearly the case here, we inform appropriate authorities. It's worth mentioning that in an interview with PBS in 2022, Linville concluded, of course, that Russian trolls aren't as common as people think they are, but they are there. So are Ukrainian trolls that are funded by the Defense Department and call themselves NAFO.
Check out Meme Wars on our channel. Big thanks to Clarenberg for putting that article out. NAFO, appreciate you.
On March 11th, Linville asked Roth on Twitter, threat intelligence lead Patrick Conlon, we talked about him because he's formerly the Department of Defense and he used to work for the DOD and other federal intelligence agencies, and no one ever vetted him, really. So Linville asked them about the suspension of an account that his team hadn't flagged for removal. He asked them about the possibility of taking more strategic approaches to questions of account suspension, as his team hoped to continue tracking smaller accounts. Now, this is what's crazy. This interaction is part of a recurring pattern in which Clemson researchers sought to forge a closer relationship with Twitter's moderation team, right? So what it says was a major area of disagreement between Linville and Roth concerned Twitter's approach to removing accounts. Roth wanted them gone. He insisted that no one benefits from the continued presence of inauthentic activity on social media and encouraged Linville to hand over the names of any accounts his team may have been keeping to themselves. He even invoked former special counsel Robert fucking Mueller. Come on. Really?
Of course he did.
Yep. We and the Senate Intelligence Committee and Robert Mueller have all called for open info sharing here. No one benefits from the continued presence of inauthentic activity on social media.
Mueller.
Just tell me what accounts I can ban for you, sir. Linville then responds by explaining his team's reasoning.
Please let me lick your boots, sir.
Linville responds by explaining his team's reasoning. He wanted Twitter to preserve the smaller accounts because they were less likely to gain traction, but more likely to waste the alleged Russian network's time and resources. He also believed that maintaining such accounts would help his team better understand the network's tactics and behavior. he wanted to study them, and then hopefully that they'll lead him to the big fish. I mean, he thinks he's Columbo. Right?
One more thing.
Roth argued that Linville's preferred strategy was not the one we choose to advance in this space based on our approach and the approach of the rest of the industry to combating these threats. We don't let them go and monitor and watch them and hope they do something so that we can catch them later. We just shut them the fuck down, is what he's saying. At the same time, he acknowledged that working with Linville's findings would probably prove more efficient than waiting for law enforcement. No wonder why he got a job at the Aspen Institute now. On March 12th, Linville's partner, economics professor Patrick Warren, jumped into the conversation. He claimed that the feds and CNN were much more receptive to the Clemson professor's input than Twitter was. Well, these guys believe me. Why don't you? Come on, bro. He described how CNN had provided them with a researcher and cited how Clarissa Ward and her team had traveled to Africa to follow up on their research because it was set up by us.
Mm-hmm.
He also noted that law enforcement had been open with Linville and Warren to the extent that they can, under regulatory restrictions, and that they can, and mentioned that they'd shared resources with the Clemson team. It's all on the hush-hush. Come on, man. We can't really tell you, but we're going to tell you anyway. Make you feel really important. Holy shit. As strained as the dynamic between Twitter and Clemson could be, I can't believe there even is a dynamic. CNN's relationship with the two parties appeared much more amicable. Fuck you, CNN. The news network was willing to share alleged Russian tweets with the platform while also providing the Clemson professors with research personnel. This is literally the Clinton News Network.
Oh, those Russians.
This is the Clinton News Network come to life right here. The Anderson Cooper CIA-led news network.
Yep.
The Warren email, and that's not Elizabeth Warren, but the partner of this Clemson project. The Warren email also reveals the sophisticated nature of Clemson's collaboration with federal agencies. His third point is especially salient. That what resources and information did those law enforcement agencies provide? When asked for comment, Warren wrote, emphasis ours, at the same time, our impression was that the FBI had been following up with local investigations and foreign partners. Twitter, in contrast, didn't seem to be dedicating any significant effort to this project. And then we find out that the FBI really hadn't been. So it was really CNN, but of course we know that it was CNN funded by and led by the U.S. government or somebody affiliated with them and funded by the U.S. government. Linville also made reference to his team's relationship with federal law enforcement in a July 2019 email to Yoel Roth. According to Linville, this guy Linville, he ran the Clemson project here. He and his team regularly share what they've learned as well as accounts they feel are suspicious with various federal agencies. Of course they do, because they're all in cahoots together. Linville also described how he'd spent an hour talking CNN out of running a story that he believed to be rooted in limited information and too little analysis. Who the hell are you to decide, dude? Well, he's self-appointed Twitter cops. That's what these guys are. The censorship police.
Regulators.
Yep. A subsequent email from Roth to Warren and Linville sheds further light on the nature of CNN's relationship with both Twitter and the Clemson team. According to Roth, Twitter was in the habit of sharing data with CNN, and at one point, CNN sent the hub an unofficial version of the information they'd gathered. What does he say? Thank you very much, my friends. It looks like we missed this one as we're parsing out the AI face accounts from the Ghanaian ones. We sent our data to CNN as we're still working on finalizing it, so it's a little surprising they shared a non-final set with y'all, but it seems like this worked out. Yeah, it sure did. For who? Linville and Warren's discussions with social media platforms weren't limited to Twitter. In March 2022, Linville contacted Facebook moderation leads Olga Belaglova and David Agronovich.
Yeah, that's 5 times fast.
No, thank you. David Agronovich is formerly the National Security Council, so you know that he's got no intel ties.
Belogalova.
Mr. Belogalova. Yeah. Is she bombastic? Olga's bombastic.
Yeah, I hope so.
Right?
Super fantastic, even.
Yes. So Linville contacted Facebook moderation leads to express doubt about the viability of a proposed data sharing program. According to this guy, the lawyers with whom the hub had consulted were very afraid of GDPR, which is weird because GDPR is a European thing. Why are you worried about election integrity having to do with GDPR? And this is very strange. All right. We've had many conversations with different legal teams, however, and as of now, it isn't looking good. All right. Now, the reason why is because it lists about 50 Facebook accounts in order of date of birth. You're doxing people right there. And in many cases, Twitter accounts that repost the Facebook content. Right. A few of these accounts you've already suspended. Most of these Facebook accounts have the same date of birth. That's kind of interesting. At least one of these, Rima's Malaysia, is also active on Instagram, and there are clear suggestions that the same actor is running both the Twitter and Facebook accounts. That's interesting.
I mean,
right?
Just because they had the same birthday? Okay.
Well, 50 Facebook accounts with the same birthday that were posting similar content, that might actually...
Sure.
Was that Shabba Ranks or Shaggy? I think it might have been Shaggy. Boombastic.
Shaggy.
Right. So, also, I remember in 2020, there were a lot of conversations, even in my company that was based out of Europe, about GDPR. But I can't imagine why this Twitter censorship having to do with Russian accounts would be worried about GDPR, because Russia doesn't even participate in GDPR. When asked about these concerns, Linville wrote, "Well, I'm not an attorney. I'm not confident in my understanding of the law or my ability to articulate concerns raised by our institution related to the proposed agreement." So basically, I was talking on my ass and letting other people speak for me, and that's probably not such a good idea. Regardless.
But I'll do it again.
I'll fucking do it again. Regardless, it remains clear that the Media Forensics Hub has, or at least had, considerable reach, a prime example of how academic anti-disinformation research can act as a relay station between federal law enforcement, the corporate press, and internet platforms. And that's what it's trying to do, is to show that pipeline and that interconnectedness and that incestuousness.
Game of Thrones?
Kind of. James says that below are a few other noteworthy emails you might find in this FOIA disclosure, which we've uploaded again in full to the Racket FOIA library. The Hub's activities are almost too extensive to fully document, but among the highlights are its initial contact with CISA, its advocacy on behalf of a NATO official, and its concerns about tweets touting the efficacy of the Russian COVID-19 vaccine. Weird.
Yeah.
Right? In October...
how dare they...
How dare they develop
question the efficacy of a vaccine? That's there must be anti-vax, Indy. That's terrible.
Bad cookies. You're not an attorney, but you will create the sources that attorneys will point to when they argue about Russian troll farms. You're influencing the law.
Yep.
In October 2018, Linville described his team's methodology for identifying Twitter accounts they attributed to Russian Internet Research Agency, the IRA. One of the criteria that he cited is commonalities in the email with which the account is registered. When Roth pointed out that the email address used to register an account is not public information, how did you get it? Well, he revealed that his team's methodology for gathering that information. We pretend to have forgot the password and infer from the shortened email. So it says, when you say you forgot your password, it says, we sent the email to in blah, 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 blah at gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
In February of 2019, Linville and Warren made contact with Matthew Masterson of CISA. Masterson currently serves as Microsoft's Director of Information Integrity. No conflict of interest there. He also spent a year as a non-resident fellow at the now dissolving Stanford Internet Observatory. Their initial correspondence was arranged by Twitter public policy manager Kevin Kane. So you've got Twitter, Microsoft, everybody's all the Stanford Internet Observatory guy, right? And CISA. So that's not good. In July of 2019, again, this is stuff going back 4 and 5 years. We're doing forensic deep dives into what happened, how these agencies were created, what the idea and framework behind them were, and how they operated, so that we can be aware for 2024 to see what they're trying to do, because they claimed that they were going to be ramping this up. I remember we called this a couple of weeks ago, that their idea was to run another version of this times 3. They wanted like 3 or 8 election integrity partnerships to be running simultaneously. So by all means, read this. This is, again, over at Racket, and you have to be a paid member. So that's why I want to go through this. All right. Linville raised concerns about Roth's failure to suspend an account he believed was being operated by the Internet Research Agency, the Russian agency, alleged. He described his team's exchanges with Roth as exceedingly one-sided, meaning they're trying to pin this on the Russians and they're Russiagating Roth, and he's resisting at that point. But you know what happens after a bunch of time of doing that? It wears on you. So that by August of 2020, when they're ready to set Roth up for the tabletop exercise about Hunter Biden's laptop, he's a lot more receptive to it. And they end up censoring DMs of the New York Post article. In November of 2019, Linville mentioned how a colleague from the NATO Strategic Communications Center of Excellence in Latvia wanted to know why certain Twitter accounts had been suspended. This colleague was doing research on QAnon. Okay, why does Latvia from NATO Strategic Comms want to know about QAnon?
Yeah. Well, because they need to know how to better lie about it, pretty much.
In October 2020, Linville made reference to the Media Forensics Hub's work with the Commission on Presidential Debates to identify Twitter accounts with various obvious signs of inauthenticity. Here we go. They keep going. They keep going and going. Finally, in March of 2022, this one's unbelievable. Linville emailed Roth and Twitter threat disruption analyst William Newland. You know that last name, right? Half brother of the decades-long Department of State fixture Victoria Newland. He asked for help in convincing Meta to remove the Russian language Instagram accounts mentioned above and encouraged them to provide their colleagues at Facebook with any knowledge that might prove helpful. Linville wrote, quote, given the ongoing war in Ukraine and the daily atrocities taking place, thanks to Ukraine bombing the Donbass, but that's not what he said, I'm sure we can all agree shutting down Russian state information on every platform is in our shared best interests. They wanted to Alex Jones, these people. Newland, who conveniently also used to work at Facebook, responded by noting that they are 100% aligned on the importance of getting this stuff right and mitigated across the whole platform ecosystem. And I remember we had talked about that guy, Mudge Zatko, who brought in, it's Alethea Group, all right? Alethea Group was
Frank Zappa's long lost son.
Maybe. No, Zatko, not Zappa. But that guy, through his friends at the Alethea Group, were trying to map internet behavior across social media platforms so that they could potentially try to get people shut down across them. Like they did to Alex Jones, like they tried to do to Trump.
Yeah.
Right. So according to Newland, the Twitter team was in close touch with its peers in tech, and rival companies were generally aware of one another's approaches to abuse mitigation. The reason why is because they all hire each other's tech and IT security people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, there is a Media Forensics Hub FOIA production right here, and that is an entire free to all article that has all of the raw emails, more than 250 plus pages of FOIA productions and results pertaining to just the Clemson University Forensics Media Hub.
Well, and I'm sure there's a lot more than Clemson.
Well, here in the Racket FOIA library, you've got the ones that we've covered in the past, the Gary Kasparov one. We didn't actually read that article, but that's available. And the stuff about Kate Starbird and the University of Washington that we covered.
Sure.
Right. So Cookies is asking a good question here. How is this not state-driven propaganda? How is this different from the fascism they blame Russia of being? And this is like Soviet Russia. This isn't even like current modern day Russia.
Well, the Soviet Russia we were lied into believing. But yes.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
Tara Reade, welcome to the stream. How do we miss that? Hi. Who are these people? Let's give Tara, who are these people?
Who are these people?
There you go.
There you go.
Everybody follow Tara over on Instagram and TikTok. She has new accounts over there. I believe it's at Real Tara Reade in both cases. So check her out over there. All right. So we have a couple of quick hits real quick, and then we will get to boats. And I think we're holding pretty well so far. So let's just do that real fast.
Tick, tack, toe. A winner.
Who are these people?
Nancy was not a winner this week. No. So continue reading. No, hey now. Continue. Get out of here.
You're an all-star?
Okay. That's nonsense. So remember last week, we did a little bit of a piece, about 2 minutes, on Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters, and the Amazon Labor Union, and they were getting a puff piece in the New York Times, and I said, the New York Times doesn't do a puff piece on the Pudork Times, yes, that they don't do a puff piece on you and your labor union unless they're doing it for the benefit of the bosses. So, what? As expected, first they build you up, then they knock you down. So first they wanted to make it like the Teamsters are doing such a great thing, and you know they're representing workers. But then this week the attack ad came, or the attack article, how a Teamster leader's flirtations with Trump have divided the union. So again, they're making Sean O'Brien the face of labor, not the workers that he actually represents at UPS and everywhere else.
You mean politicizing a union is bad? Man, who would have thunk that?
See, at least he's going to both parties to politicize them. So he's
I would go to neither, but
politicizing,
sure.
Yes. But he also wants to get laws
passed. The Pudork Times is not going to do this for any time him meeting with Biden has divided the union.
Right.
That's never going to happen.
Right. And see, that's what's funny is that he has requested equal time at both conventions, but just the fact that he's even talking to a Republican, as if there are no Republicans working in any Teamsters warehouses, facilities, truck drivers, anywhere else around the country, that Sean O'Brien shouldn't be talking with Trump, especially now that it looks like he will be likely to probably win in November, given everything that's been going down. But I just wanted to mention that, they don't do this unless they have a plan, an agenda, and, Sean O'Brien plays ball with them. So what's going to happen now is he'll have like a little bit of a back and forth, but they're elevating his profile. They're making him the face, and they're doing that on purpose. Also, I wanted to make note, and I thought this was a funny place to screen cap it. Our friend Snow Himbo of the politically homeless variety, as well as on Snow Himbo Gaming on Saturday nights. Check that out. Last night he was playing the Thaumaturge. He was on Hardlens Media yesterday talking about the psychology of Biden's speech, I think, or something having to do with Biden. He had a great time, got some great feedback. Really appreciate Kit for inviting him on, supporting INN and independent media.
I don't stand for that.
You don't? I thought you did. And then finally, we've got our weekly calendar for this week, what our plans are. I don't know if this is what's going to happen, so this is all subject to change. You can, again, find all that, like you see on the Nightbot says, at indienews.network. But last night we had now that's on Rumble only, so you've got to go to rumble.com/c/indie-news-network, and you can find Pro Wrestling Talk. It did not go out to Kick or to YouTube last night, as well, or Rockfin. It was a Rumble exclusive as well. And then last night, Snow Himbo gamed. We are live right now. How do we miss that? Just wrap it up after a crash. And then we've got boat smashing and other boats next. We'll do some React funny stuff. Tomorrow night, I don't think we have anything scheduled. Soon there will be another show coming on Monday nights. Snow Himbo and Yeti are planning on doing something coming soon, and they'll make an announcement sooner rather than later. Tuesday night, we plan on having an American Tradition with Jesse. Wednesday night, these guys will be back for INN News. And then Thursday, Politically Homeless. And we've got our 3-show Friday planned. As far as I know, for Friday, Tara said she's planning on having a show and sending us something to produce for Friday in the afternoon. And then Friday night, 7 o'clock, Angel in the afternoon. 10:30, we have our Jesse Jett clip show. We ran the first two as a rerun kind of last Friday night. They're great. You should definitely come and hang out at the Jesse clip shows on Friday night. Tara says she will be back
American
soon.
Tradition.
Nice. We look forward to that, Tara. And stay safe and out there, and we're glad you're around and crushing it and speaking out. All right. So let's get ready for boats. Everyone's want to laugh. So Reef will drop the links in the chat. We're not going to direct you afterwards because we're on a new stream, but Reef will have the links. You can find us over on Rockfin, Rumble, and YouTube. It's a separate stream just for boats smashing into other boats. We will be deleting it from YouTube as soon as we're done. So check it out over there. But it'll stay up on Rumble in case you miss it. So,
and Twitter and
Twitch,
Rockfin maybe.
Rockfin and Kick, I believe it'll stay up on Kick. We'll see. But all right, everyone. Well, keep supporting independent media. I love you. We need it more than ever. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you soon for boats.
Yep. Keep listening to what boats had to tell you. See you in a bit, fam. I gotta scroll down here. Hold on.
Huh?
Where's even at? What dip?
Are you fucking kidding me? Is that no? We just fucking lost the stream.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?